Krick is with us. He's coming directly from Frisco, Texas. I'm here in San Antonio, Texas. He's not too far from where I'm at. And let me tell you a little bit about James. He is an accomplished digital workplace leader with 30 years in the industry and a proven track record for providing quality and cost-effective IT services. He spent 20 years at IBM in their digital workplace outsourcing services unit and currently oversees digital workplace services at Campbell's Soup. James, it's a real pleasure to have you with us, sharing your wisdom and your expertise. We all very much look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Jose. I'm very honored to be here, so thanks for having me. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a journey to superior customer experience. Now, as you can imagine, this is a daunting challenge. I'm going to be talking to you about digital workplace IT support services in particular. Arguably, we're talking really about the UX or user experience because it's internal customers versus consumers that buy your product, which is traditionally CX. But for simplicity's sake, for this presentation, I'm going to use the vernacular of CX and customer experience. Now, every company can define what they believe is peak or superior customer experience. It's going to vary from company to company, and getting to that peak can be one of many different journeys. So I'm going to describe to you one particular company's journey to what they've defined as peak customer experience, touching upon two specific areas. One, we're going to talk about the right to left strategy, which actually has been around for a long time, but still has merit. And so we're going to see how that has some impact into the customer experience, as well as we're going to talk through different channels of engagement, how you interact with your customers and how that can be a feeder and big impactor into customer experience. All right, so right to left. I can imagine some of my IBM peers from back in the day or perhaps even rolling their eyes saying you're still singing the mantra of right to left. Yeah, so top right, Jose mentioned that I spent a long time, 20 years at IBM, probably over a decade ago. Some peers of mine and myself put together a white paper that detailed this concept of right to left. In fact, we shared it at our Magic Quadrant session with Gartner, and then Gartner turned around and called it shift left and promoted it highly, and it's really taken on in the industry. And the model is pretty simple, so I'll go through this construct you see here on the screen. Basically, it's a proven service model that aims to shift work from higher cost means like level 2, level 3 resolver groups from the right over to the left toward more lower cost efficient means such as level 1, calling the service desk, or even automation and self-help resolution. Each time you move across that spectrum of right to left, you're moving the customer resolution closer to the source. You're improving MTTR. MTTR is a very common industry metric, mean time to resolution. Just think of that as a stop clock going off when the ticket opens to when the ticket closes, and it doesn't factor in holds. It's open to close. So you want to minimize that as much as possible. You want to get your people's issues solved as quickly as possible and get them more productive. So basically focusing on that manner, and over time that can drive way to the left to what you see as problem avoidance. And by avoiding the problem, you're actually over time lessening the ticket volumes, right? So you can see the traditional state and the optimized state going from a higher to a lower. So that, in simple terms, that's the right to left strategy. So, what have we done at our particular company in this regard? Focusing on the actual shift, right, from that level 2 to level 1, level 0. One of the foundational linchpins of any of that right to left movement, in my firm belief, is having a robust knowledge base and solid KB governance around that. So upon coming into Campbell's, one of the things we dug in on was what does the knowledge base look like? If you think of a service desk agent, it's definitely an entry-level job. It's not often that you'll ask your kid, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a service desk agent. it's an entry-level job. It's usually a stepping stone to other career opportunities. So why do I share that? You're going to have high attrition. You can raise salaries, which you really don't want to do, or do all the incentives in the world, but you're always going to have high turnover. Service desks have seen anywhere from 10% to, I've seen in India, 25% attrition rates. So to get around that, you want to have a nimble enterprise where you can get a new agent up to speed quickly, and you want your agents to not rely on their skills and expertise, because a lot of them don't have years and years of experience. So you need that robust knowledge base behind it. So we went through the existing knowledge base. There were thousands upon thousands of articles. Some haven't been touched or looked at in over a decade. So we ended up kind of scrapping that and worked with our level 2, 3 SME resolver groups, looking at the most tickets that they have, more common, and having them document how they resolve their issues, incidents, and then putting those into knowledge articles, educating the agents, and trying to do and conduct that transformation of right to left, right? So we do have a very solid KV governance every month. Every article has an expiration date. So every month we're reviewing, we either retire, update, renew articles, create new as innovation changes or technology changes. So you can just see this as an example of the activity we see around our knowledge articles. The other best practice that we've implemented is tagging knowledge articles upon resolution of a ticket. So our agents basically, upon closure of that ticket, they will tag the article they used to resolve that ticket. You're never going to get hit 100% because there's always those one-off tickets. Technology changes. These are opportunities for perhaps new articles. I would say around 80% plus is hitting nirvana, and you can see in that data that over time we've improved and we've hit that clip level of 80% in recent months. So what does that look like in terms of what did that do to your enterprise? So again, this is real data. Early on, our desk is what I would call a pass-through desk. They resolved less than half of what came in to the desk and ended up forwarding that ticket to a level 2, level 3 resolver. As we matured, as we got better knowledge articles, as the desk got better at resolving issues, you can see that improvement over time. And then the last several months, we've hit that stride. I would even consider that very solid industry numbers of you're talking 60 to 70+% resolution at the desk. So this isn't FCR, which excludes tickets. This is everything that comes into our desk, and whether it's resolved at the desk or forwarded on. So you can see, I couldn't have painted a better picture of this improvement over time. If you take that and map it out against this right to left strategy and kind of work these metrics, in that white paper I mentioned, we had a metrics methodology where you could measure where the resolution happens. You can see if I take those 3 periods, that kind of reddish, yellow, and green, the transformation where level 2 went down over those periods of time and went up in level 1. We did make strides in level 0. I just haven't mined that data yet. So don't think we're not doing anything there. We are. But you can see through the data the transformation that's happening in the environment. The other piece of right to left is that reduction of incidents over time, right? So how did that work in our environment? We definitely saw a decrease over time, a pretty significant decrease over time of incident volume going down. So again, you can see how that strategy at its heart is helping to improve the environment, and in turn, improving that customer experience. They feel the value that they're getting from the support organization. So next I'm going to talk about forms of engagement. If you think of today's workforce, we have anywhere from baby boomers and Gen X to millennials and Gen Z. And all of these different age groups have varying habits and preferences of how they like to do things, including customer engagement, right? So some factions prefer that traditional engagement, picking up the phone or dropping an email, while others, or the newer generations, prefer more modern means like chat or text or social media, or walking into an Apple store and walking up to the Genius Bar and getting instant gratification right there in the moment. So in today's world of customer experience and getting that superior customer experience, and the fact that your different user groups prefer different channels of engagement, it behooves a digital workplace leader to offer an array of different forms of engagement and then optimizing those. So the ones I'm going to take you through here are the ones we happen to use at our company and have proven to be of value, some better than others. And so I'll walk through each one and share that with you. So let's talk with the most obvious one, phone, right? This is the most traditional, most common forms of getting IT support, right? Calling that help desk or calling the service desk, very highly popular means. And frankly, there's been a lot of improvements over the years in terms of call center infrastructure. Tools have been dramatically improved where agents can be virtually pooled from all over the world. They can cater to different price points, different time zones, different language requirements, and different call features. Our outsourced provider of service desk service to our company recently moved their call infrastructure to the cloud, to Amazon Connect. And with that came some added features, one of which was that callback feature that you see in the consumer world, where you call up and you're put on hold and you get the option of you won't lose your place in line, just leave your phone number and the system will automatically call you back. So we've implemented that. That is a huge, people like that, right? It's good customer satisfier as well. That helps attack abandonment, if you're familiar with abandonment and how that impacts service desk performance and metrics. So that kind of call feature. The other thing about phone is going back to the concept of MTTR, mean time to resolution, a very, very key if you run an IT support organization, very key metric that you need to have at your disposal. So looking at least 4 of the channels in our particular company, phone is exponentially faster than some of the other channels. And the other thing you can see year to year, that MTTR is getting shorter and shorter, which is great, right? So this is definitely still a very viable, especially with COVID and remote and people not being in the office. They need to call anyway or reach out in some capacity. So phone is still very, very valid and a good customer satisfier. Now, in stark contrast to that, email, in my opinion, is among the lower ends of a customer satisfier. And why is that, right? So I'll go back to that metric I had before. Look at email as in MTTR compared to better channels of phone and chat. And it's getting worse year to year, arguably, as well. So why is that? Well, think of email and how it works, right? Email's linear. I send a note to an email to somebody, it sits in their inbox until they read it, even if you have SLAs around it. But it's a linear kind of one-way conversation. It's not in the moment like phone. You're interacting, 2 voices talking to each other. Chat, 2 voices talking to each other. Even an in-person visit is a live conversation, right? So email's linear, and email's also freeform, right? So I get an email that says, yeah, I'm having some problems with OneDrive. Well, what's an agent gonna do with that? Not much. They're gonna have to call you back, and you're just elongating MTTR, which at the end of the day is not getting the customer's issues resolved in a timely manner. So this tends to actually foster a poorer customer experience. Some digital workplace leaders eliminate email altogether as a form of engagement to engage for IT support. I've done it myself at some companies. At our current company, we're not there yet. So you can see here on this graphic, it's number 2 of the main channels that people love. The good news is it's going down over time from the mid 30% to the mid 20%, and we have some aces up our sleeve that we're going to implement and make further inroads in this space. But again, not the tops in terms of customer experience. So moving to chat and text, right? So you may have seen that last graphic where chat was barely a blip of use in there, but we've made some inroads here at Campbell's. So year to year, we've doubled from 4% to 8%. Going back to that MTTR metric, chat is way faster than email in the portal. A little slower than phone, but still good. improvement year over year. Again, we have some aces up our sleeve. We're a Microsoft shop, so we use Microsoft Teams. Very soon we're going to implement on that left menu of Teams, we're going to put a contact or chat, the service desk button, so it's right there front and center in the application that people use day in and day out all the time, and help with those numbers. The other thing you can do in a chat space is you can integrate chat bots. You can even do some VI type of stuff for automation, less cost. And if it's done right, you can also, again, enhance a very positive user experience. All right, in person. So this is an interesting one, right? So think of the evolution of the PC, right? And in the old days, we called on-site support, we called it desktop support, right? So why did we call it that? Because people had big desktop units that they basically, the only way to help them out was to go to their desk, right? And so in today's day and age, going to a desk is like invading somebody's space, and they really don't want you there half the time. So flipping the model to a more commercial model, right? Replicating that consumer model of the Apple Store and walking up to the Genius Bar at your convenience and leisure and getting that instant support. So at Campbell's, we've opened up, we call them a tech lounge. So this is, I mean, look at that. That's gorgeous. That's a retail store right there. I can't take credit for designing or building this. This was here when I got to Campbell's. But it's beautiful. It's inviting. People love coming to the tech lounge. It's in a high traffic area. We give away swag. We have our agents or our techs are all uniformed, kind of like the Geek Squad at Best Buy. People love coming by, and they love how quick and easy it is, right? And then what happened when COVID came and nobody's in the office to go to the tech bar? Well, we made it virtual, right? So we ended up setting up a scheduling appointment app where people could schedule half-hour increments with a tech expert in uniform, and they'll share their team's background virtually to show the tech lounge, to make it seem like you're there at the tech lounge. So very, very high scores. I'll share some data later, but very, very high, among the highest of CX experience in this support model. Okay, the portal, right? So the portal is, I find a very make sense type of form of engagement, right? Every company is going to have a ticketing tool to track your tickets. So it's commonly used, but if you really design it well and put in some robust search tools, FAQs, even self-help tools, right? That knowledge base that I was kind of pontificating about before, and making some of those articles customer facing, where some of your newer generations like to fix their own stuff instead of waiting on you, if you will. So we definitely, my boss did a great initiative of we had multiple ticketing tools or ServiceNow instances within Campbell's. HR had their own instance, facilities had their own instance, IT had their own instance. We pooled those together in recent months. We really keyed up the search engine so that you could get meaningful results if you search for something. And we did make that knowledge base, a large portion of it, customer facing, where people could look up in an FAQ or even a knowledge article fashion how to resolve their own issues. I often think of IT support as retail. You can tell I use analogies like crazy. So thinking of IT support as retail and the ITIL model of incidents and requests. You know, incident is something broken. It's something not working and it needs to be fixed, right? So it's not great when I have people walking into my store and, hey, this product you gave me is not working. I need it fixed, right? You want less and less of those over time, like we said with the right to less strategy. You want the volumes to go down for incidents. But in contrast to that, for requests, requests are net new things that people don't have, right? Repeat customers. Hey, I need something new. I need, to buy more stuff, if you will. So in my view, service requests going up is not necessarily a bad thing. It just means you're giving more value back to your user base and your customers. So we've seen, I showed you that trend of incidents going down, our request volume's going up. People keep coming back for more stuff that they need because technology is changing. We're offering more stuff, and they're coming in a manner and consuming it. Training. training's interesting. Some people may say that's really not an engagement form for IT support per se, but I will tell you, proactively training your folks, making them more astute at how things work, abates the need for IT support on the back end, if you think about it, right? So we definitely have, and a lot of companies have, your traditional instructor-led training, whether it's in person, virtual, or a hybrid of both. That certainly still has a lot of merit. What we've done is we've supplemented that with an outside service partner that basically has a treasure trove library of how-to videos, kind of like a YouTube, that's tailored for your environment, of these 1 minute, 2 minute snippet videos of, you know, how to use Teams, how to use Outlook, OneDrive, intermediate, beginner, intermediate, advanced, if you will. We can supplement that library with our own videos. So we create a lot of in-house videos for certain things. So you can see that one I just popped up, the tech tour, is a new employee gets assigned a skill path, which is a series of videos that you can self-pace them through, and they learn how the environment works at Campbell's, different applications, how to engage the support center and things like that. So we've embraced that, and we've really had stellar results. So size company-wise of about 10,000 people across our full enterprise. We average per month more than one view, asset view, per person per month in our enterprise. 1 month, I think, when the pandemic started, we had 20,000 asset views in just 1 month alone. We have a lot of repeat users, right? So that 81% total user return rate is another good number. So people just don't come and see one, and that's it for that month. They'll come back and see more. Of the service provider we work with, they are global. They have thousands of customers. We're in their top 1% of asset views, and we're also in the top 5 of their client base of event attendance for their live webinars. So again, this is another medium where we've really embraced it, promoted it, and have gotten some really great results. And this also has contributed to that concept of lessening of incident volumes. Social media. So this is an emerging, or has emerged, right, over the last I don't know, decade or so, right? So a lot of companies have an internal social media platform, be it Microsoft's Yammer. At Campbell's, we have Workplace by Facebook. It's grown in popularity. So definitely having a social media presence here can be a great avenue for people to learn more about IT, what you have, what's going on, right? So we have definitely embraced this. We have this channel that we call What the Tech, kind of pun on words there. And every week we're popping something in there that's IT related, right? So we have these standard, I'll call them columns. I think twice a month we'll do tech tips that usually point to one of those videos I mentioned with the asset views, right? So it all ties together. So tech tips, right? Very short video. Hey, how do you do this in OneDrive? How do you do this in Excel? What have you? We do mobile app of the month, where we string together a couple videos of certain applications in our environment, and how do they work? How does it work on your mobile versus on the desktop, if there's any difference there? And then my boss, Christy Litchford, we kind of created this monthly column, like a Dear Abby column, if you will, where Christy is sharing what's the latest in technology. She'll do some interviews with some of our IT leaders. She'll do videos she's got a great sense of humor. We do a lot of parodies that talk about IT and technology. We did the do's and don'ts of what not to do in a hybrid conference meeting that was very popular. And she's even become kind of this mini celebrity walking around our headquarters. People will say, hey, that's Christy from Christy's Corner. So it's almost like you're creating a brand, right? We're definitely, going back to that retail analogy, we're definitely trying to sell great services to our end user base, and getting that superior user experience. All right, so as I indicated earlier, right, every company has its own definition of what they would call a superior customer experience, right? And so this is just one journey, or one path that our particular company has taken. I do want to give a quick shout out to Weston Morris, who was one of our presenters yesterday, who I thought did a great presentation on XLAs, experience level agreements, so not SLAs, but XLAs. And he talked about XLA 2.0 and the secret of great employee experience, and really was that forward looking of where this space is starting to move forward and how can digital workplace leaders measure and drive that forward even further. So if you didn't catch it yesterday, definitely try and catch the replay. Our company, I'm going to share you some stats right now. We're definitely maturing and evolving in this space, but we have more to go. But it's ever continuing improvement, right? So here are some of the traditional, right, customer survey feedback that you get, right? So the top right is that traditional. You reach out for IT support. Somebody, be it an agent at level 1 or an expert at level 2 or 3, resolves your incident, your problem, and you get an email saying, "Hey, your ticket's now closed. You know, do you mind filling out this optional survey?" The return rate, industry standard wise, is around 6 to 7%. We're in that area, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. So we're happy with our return rate there. You can see over time our numbers are improving. I would tell you, prior to what you see on the chart, pre-February of last year, we were mainly in the 80 percentile, mid 80%, and now we're consistently in the 90s. We even hit an all-time high of 96, I think, there in January. So great numbers, right? We've started to, and this is where I'll harken back to Weston's. He talked about an XLA 2.0, looking at personas and measuring certain survey or feedback from your customers within personas, like sales versus manufacturing versus this other group, right? We've actually started to do this a little bit, not necessarily by those types of personas, but by engagement channel. So I talked about our tech lounges and our virtual tech lounges. So what we do there is, if you walk into a tech lounge, one of the benefits of walking into a tech lounge is you don't have to open a ticket. We will do that for you. That's a benefit of walking in, walking out. We wanted it to be that retail experience. When you walk into the Apple store, do they say, you know, here, fill out this ticket? They don't, right? We wanted that same experience by design. Before they leave, we very politely say, hey, if you don't mind, we have a tablet over here. Would you fill out that one question customer survey? So we do it in the moment by design. And you can see, not just because we do the survey differently, but again, that medium, that customer experience of walking into a store. Look at the results compared to the other. Look at the return rates. Virtual Tech Lounge, similar but different, right? So it's this Teams virtual call. Right before we end that call, we say very politely, hey, I'm going to put a link to the survey in the chat. If you have some time, please fill it out. It's in the moment. It's not this 2 days later email of, hey, 2 days ago you had a ticket. You know, do you remember what it was, and do you want to comment or rate us on a survey? So different approaches, but method to the madness, if you will. And then top right, AV events, right? AV has really become very important in the post-COVID world, because your meetings are very hybrid. Some people are in the office, some are not. So we do host AV events, Teams Lives, larger events. And so we ask people to respond to surveys based on how those events go. And you can see the scores there. They've just been tremendous. So starting to keep that broad survey in mind, but then doing kind of targets underneath the hood, if you will. And you can see we've gotten some great results, and we're going to keep going. All right, so coming full circle, returning to this analogy of a journey and getting to that peak superior customer experience, right? Once you reach the peak, are you done? No, you're not, right? Technology changes, user requirements change. There's always going to be another peak, another set of requirements, more to do on the horizon. That's one of the reasons why I love being in IT. It's ever changing. It's not boring. It doesn't stagnate. It changes constantly. So what do we, Campbell's, have on our horizon? for at least near term. I'll share a couple items with you. So we're on the cusp of deploying these cool looking, company branded IT vending machines and lockers. The vending machines, maybe you've seen in airports, right? Best Buy has some where you can just walk up, and in our company, it's a badge swipe where you can dispense a keyboard, a mouse, a headset, very conveniently, securely, great tracking. And then the locker concept of getting a PC loaner or returning equipment that's broken or leaving the company and having a place to return that in a secure fashion. So we're looking to deploy these. These also are 7x24. So you think about, right, we're Campbell Soup, we have manufacturing of beverages and snacks, and we have all these different divisions making all these great different products. And we have 3 shifts working 7x24, but we don't have on-site support 7x24. So being able to get this stuff in this fashion with the badge swipe is available 7x24. So again, it has its benefits as well. And this is one that Weston mentioned yesterday in his presentation, this concept of a digital experience monitoring platform. NextThink, if you've heard of that. Tachyon by 1E, Alteryx has a platform. There's a lot of different ones. In fact, there's a Magic Quadrant out on it as well. But what do these do? These will, it's kind of like endpoint management on steroids, if you will. Self-healing is introduced, proactive remediation. Weston mentioned it'll give you a PC happiness score, right? You as an end user can push a button and it'll tell you how it's doing across different veins of performance for your PC. So this is one we have a lot of, we believe is a big game changer that we're moving towards. So, so these are some near-term items on the horizon for us, but we will, again, technology continues to change and evolve, and we will continue to meet our customer demands and drive toward that superior customer experience. So thank you. And now we're going to move on to some Q&A.
Fantastic, James. What a great presentation and the overview and review of this customer experience journey there at Campbell Soup and throughout your career as well. One of the themes that emerged during your presentation has to do with the shift that you talked about. And then someone asked, if I'm starting on this journey where I really haven't thought through very much in a very disciplined approach for my customer experience and journey. The question is there a linear kind of like path that you take on that shift, that you kind of build capabilities over time? Are there some steps that you suggest that people just kind of skip over and go straight to this mode? So in summary, if you're starting fresh with a customer experience system for your organization, what would be kind of the advice that you provide to those who are embarking on that journey?
Sure, no, excellent question, but one that's difficult, right? I'm sure if you ask 5 people, you get 5 different answers in that. In my particular opinion, data and metrics are tantamount, right? Especially in the IT support space. So everybody's using a ticketing tool these days, so you can mine the data and you can see where your points of resolution, going back to that right to left, is most of your resolution happening at that higher level. What is your MTTR numbers look like? Aging tickets, I didn't talk at all about aging tickets, but that translates into MTTR, right? So last 2 companies I worked at, first thing we did was walk in and say, what's the oldest ticket in the system that's open? And sometimes you've seen tickets open for 2 years, and it's like, well, this is not good etiquette of ticket performance. If a customer really knows that they have this ticket open for 2 years, that's terrible customer service. So looking at aging tickets, we would have over 30 days. We'd work with all the resolvers, go through queues together, whittle those down until people started really pay attention to their queues and their tickets and those being worked. Doing so, you'll see MTTR improve over time. And then some of the stuff I did talk about here, getting that robust knowledge base, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey. It takes a while. It took us a good year to get really solid articles from all the teams and getting those numbers of improvement that you saw. But I would say those are some of the really key foundational building blocks to get started.
In terms of deployment of technology for your customer experience, if you can talk a little bit about the use or not of bots for that customer experience, and what is your perspective on automated bots and you know, and not only kind of the basic ones, maybe the smart bots that are being rolled out nowadays. Do they play a role? Pros and cons from a practical perspective. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, another good question. There are pros and cons to bots. The cons are you lose that human element. I find that bots are effective if they're done well. If the user knows they're talking to a bot or you know, interacting without a real person, they frown upon that experience, especially if it's not helping them. Having a bot open up the chat window and asking the very, you know, usually the initial exchange, they'll ask certain questions. You know, are you working from home today? What site are you working from? What is your contact callback number? They'll ask some series of basic questions before they get into the root cause analysis. Having those upfront questions done by a bot, there's no harm there. If anything, that's automated, that speeds that phone call conversation. So having some light bot technology, I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. As you mature, right, some of those scripts and resolutions can be translated into bots and you troubleshoot them. So we did at Campbell's, we took the top 10 problem issues that people call in, you know, consistently month over month, and we looked at the resolution notes in the KB, and we did some automation where our remote takeover tool, once we identified the issue of what they were calling in for, we were able to get it where a button was either pushed or automatically executed, and the bot ran and quickly, you know, took care of the person's problem. And there was very little human interaction, and it was a positive experience for the end user. So again, pros and cons. If done well, great user experience, helps the company faster, but if not done well, ends up getting a poorer user experience.
Another theme that has emerged, James, has to do with governance. Some commentary about, you know, you have the proliferation of a lot of tools and applications and different types of technologies and organizations, and then the customer experience and, you know, and the management of all that can become unwieldy. So from a governance perspective, what do you see either at Campbell or other places that's being done well to manage that? Because there's this friction about, you know, you want to have users make decisions on what are the best tools and maybe apps that they can use for the business, but at the same time you need a level of control over it and so that you can manage and support those applications effectively. I don't know if there's a balance to be achieved there, but how is governance set up in a way that could help with that?
Yeah, no, another excellent question, right? And so the key word you mentioned there is balance, right? So there's that balance between having too many chiefs, that expression, too many chiefs or too many cooks in the kitchen, versus zero ownership, right? To me, governance ties back to ownership. If you don't have that name in a box, every ticket has to have an owner, every queue has to have an owner, every policy has to have an owner. There need to be expiration dates against your KBAs. Every KBA has an owner. And then that overarching governance needs to be simple, right? But not overkill, where there's you know, too many gates to get through to get the approval. So it needs to have that balance of nimbleness. I don't even know if that's a word. But there's a happy medium there of balance between having that ownership and that oversight governance, basically.
And to go a little bit deeper on that, what they may look like, are you talking about, like, let's talk about a case where I want to have a new technology, a new maybe application that's useful for my business. In that governance, how does that approval go through? I mean, what type of things you're looking for to approve a new technology, a new tool in the business that you're going to support later on?
Yeah, good. Another solid question, kind of follow up to that last one. We do it in our ticketing tool, right? So the beauty of the ticketing tool, we use ServiceNow, which is pretty much the dominant player in that market. ServiceNow will allow you to put expirations and timestamps on virtually anything you have in there. It has automation to kick off reviews. We can, so I don't have going back to ownership, and I say keep it simple. Our governance over our knowledge base is not necessarily one person, right? Because what if that person's out sick or something like that, right? So we do have kind of a board governance, and that model is facilitated within our ticketing tool. So it's a matter of creating that. And another thing I like about ServiceNow is it does have a lot of out-of-the-box features. And so some of the out-of-box features within ServiceNow do include some of those kind of best industry practices, if you will. So striking that balance, but again, you know, I'm not trying to avoid the question, but the balance will be different. You know, Campbell's is a food producing company. IT is important, but I don't have an army of IT staff on my team like I did on my last company. So what can I afford, but also gets the job done? So there's that happy medium, but leveraging a tool to help automate that governance is very key.
And the one last item, because it seems that this is a very important perspective for many of the participants, is that how do you establish ownership? Do you establish ownership at the process level? Do you establish ownership at the tool level? Data ownership as well. Talk a little bit about ownership, because that's usually a missing link in a lot of organizations because of, you know, mobility in the organization and processes that get redesigned and reinvented. Sometimes it's tricky to establish process, data, even tool ownership. How do you approach that?
Yeah, no, that can be a very murky water to navigate. Certainly, it ties back to IT leadership, the structure of your IT organization, and very well clear defined roles and responsibilities tied to those roles. If there's a gray area where two people or two groups oversee something that you don't have that clarity, that's where you get into trouble. One of the things Campbell does well is we don't use RACI. We use something called DAO, which is akin to RACI, but it basically allows you to, on any topic, be it a process, a tool, who's responsible, who's a contributor, who's a consultant into that. So the DMAO stands for, the Campbell's folks will probably kill me for not remembering the exact acronym and what the models are, but using that is tantamount, right? I have been in companies and past customer environments where the role and the leadership of who owns something was not clear, and basically that area was not well governed and spun out of control. So not being afraid to speak up to your manager, but that's where the leadership, your CIO and the ITLT, that next layer of leadership really needs to define, right? We have driven service definitions within our company across the different domains so that we clearly say this work is done by this group, and then in that group are these people, and those people are doing this work, and then translating that into, right? So we definitely have enterprise architecture, you know, some of the stuff that my previous speaker was talking about, Lee, having that infrastructure that definitely has the architecture laid out, who owns what, who's responsible for what, and it all starts at the top with the leadership.
Oh, very well, James, just to wrap up, because we're running against time here, but I want to ask this, and I want to thank you all again for sharing this with us. Although you have mentioned the right to left strategy has been around for some time now, I think for a lot of folks in our audience was the first time they had seen it, and they thought, and there is a simplicity and there is an effectiveness in communication about that model that is very attractive. So thank you for sharing that and reinforcing that with us. And the follow-up question is that now that for those who have worked in that model and kind of followed that, is there an evolution that you have seen now that you have been working on it for many years using that view? Have new perspective emerge, or is there a next step for that model, or it's still as it was a decade ago, it's still today, the same model applies?
Yeah, no, excellent question. I would contend that the model still applies as is. I'm still applying it as I've gone through different companies after I left IBM. I use it as the foundation of driving that improvement, and it still has merit. It still has place as it is. Certainly, the technology changes, some of the ways we resolve, but the whole concept of moving from that elongated, right, longer, higher cost resolvers to more of that automation, self-help, and driving that problem resolution still resonates and ties in a decade plus later from when it was created to drive and have impact in today's day and age of customer experience. So it's still in its roots, which is why I showed it in its form originally from well over a decade ago. It still has strong merit as is. It's still a great proven model.
What a pleasure to have you sharing your wisdom and your expertise with all of us today. On behalf of our global audience, I want to thank you for your time. Great material, great perspectives, the model and the whole journey and experience that you detail to all of us is very valuable from a practical standpoint, and we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was James Krick, who is Director of Digital Workplace Services at Campbell's, describing their journey of digital transformation with the perspectives of the customer experience journey. Very, very useful insights. We are going to be taking a break now. If you have additional questions, by the way, for James, for Lee Bogner, for Rudy, you can go to the LinkedIn post under my name on in this conference title as well. And you see I have a post in there, and you can comment, ask questions, thank the speakers, and interact with them. That way you can also have in that link a direct connection request to the speakers, because they are all listed at the bottom of the conference post. So check it out on LinkedIn under my name, and you see it. We're going to be taking a break now. When we come back, we're going to get a tremendous perspective in the global manufacturing segment, and this is going to come from the global leader for Johnson & Johnson. He's based in Switzerland, and Marcus Paganini is going to be with us at the top of the hour to talk about the smart factory strategy and implementation at Johnson & Johnson. Some leading edge technologies and approaches, combinations of lean principles and Six Sigma and Agile and exponential technologies applied to one of the great enduring organizations of our time, and certainly a global manufacturing leader. So we will be back with Marcos at the top of the hour.